way into this present moment. And so however that looks for you, maybe you close your eyes and just welcome yourself to the here and the now. Just really allow yourself just to show up and just be right here. The same way that you have physically chosen a spot, be just as intentional about choosing to be in the here and the now. And as you do that, let your body begin to settle and get comfortable. And then just start to watch that breath, just a slow breath in and a slow breath out. And a gentle breath in and a gentle breath out. And just begin to settle a little more. And notice if there's any distractions that you hear, if there's distractions in your physical body, in your thoughts. Just notice that they're there and allow yourself to come right back to the here and the now. Realizing that all those distractions, all those noises, all those thoughts, they exist right alongside us. But this practice cultivates within us the ability to be here and to be now. And so the inspiration from the Yoga Sutra that we'll sit with today is all about this idea of transformation. Oftentimes, people come to meditation, to yoga, to whatever these spiritual practices are, with this idea of becoming something, getting good or better at their lives. And what we learn very early on in these practices is that we're not becoming something. We're finding our way back to ourselves. But I think sometimes this idea of transformation makes people think that I have to transform into something different than I am. I've got to let go of my baggage and my past and my memories and my habits. But what this practice teaches us is that the transformation is the stripping away of all the things that keep us from seeing the real, authentic us, and keeps us from showing that version of us to the world. It doesn't mean that our memories are bad. It doesn't mean that all of our habits have to shift and change. It is just an invitation to truly know ourselves so well that we can't imagine letting things into our lives that are not good for us. And so this idea of transformation, Patanjali, this wise person from so many years ago, he said, don't think about transformation as becoming something different. Think about what happens to water. When water freezes, we call it ice. When water begins to evaporate, we call it vapor or steam. But the essence is that it is still water. So there's been this process of transformation, of it's taking on this different form, but it's still water. And so he says that as we learn about these practices, as they become part of us, we're not becoming something new or different. It's just a different form of who we are. Because who we've maybe been in the past, or the habits that maybe we had that don't serve us for how we need to be right now, those things begin to fall away. They lose their influence. We lose our connection to them. And we begin to transform. It's all part of the growth process. We don't question as a baby begins to grow that he's becoming someone different. It's just a different form of who he already is. And so this practice helps us to identify that in our own lives. This idea of transformation and still being us. And so I would invite each of us to just pause here And recall a time in your mind when you were so very happy. Doesn't mean that life was completely easy, but just recall a time when you kind of looked around and thought, this life of mine is really good. Maybe for some of you that's now, maybe some it's in the past, but just see that. And then at the same time, recall in your memories, in your mind, a time when your life was really challenging. Your heart was really heavy. It was really difficult to just move from one moment to the next. Maybe again, that's something you're going through now. Maybe it was in the past, but just see that. Both of these scenes, both of these examples are part of you. You are still you when you experience moments of extreme happiness. When you look about your life and just think how blessed, how lucky you are. And it's the same you that travels down these roads that are difficult. When your heart breaks, when you feel sorrow and grief, it's still you. But what often happens is we as humans tend to let those situations change us, become someone else. Sometimes through the hard times, we forget the moments of joy and happiness and that those were part of us as well. And we begin to change our outlook on the world until eventually how we show up is so far from who we really are that we don't even recognize ourselves. But what Patanjali is saying is we go through these phases just like water. There are points in time when the water is vapor, when it is steam, when it's in the clouds. There's a time when that water is frozen and it's ice. But all those phases still point back to the same source, and that is water. And so I would ask each of us just to think for just the next few breaths, just to reflect. Have you let any of these situations, any of these things that you've gone through, have you let them begin to bury or hide the essence of who you really are? Have they made you hard or disappointed or disillusioned about the world? Or are you able to navigate all these things, the really beautiful, happy moments and the really hard ones, and hold on through them all to the core of who you are? That is when you know transformation is just part of your growth, but it never changes the essence of you. You don't have to become someone else. We just have to be who we are. Embracing all the parts of our story, the days of the vapor, the days of the ice, the days of the flowing water, and whatever those look like in your life. And so just think about for just these next few breaths. Do you have a clear sense of you? Do you know this person? Or do you just identify with all these situational things that you encounter and that you go through? We were made to feel. We have these beautiful senses that help us to engage with the world, to see and to hear and to feel. We just have to be mindful that those senses don't lead us down this path of not recognizing ourselves anymore. Because the most beautiful thing about this water, as it transforms to vapor, what we know is as it evaporates and it moves into the air and the clouds are formed, that eventually it's coming back down as water. And we know that when that ice freezes in your cup, on your lawn, that eventually that ice is going to melt. And we'll be reminded that it was water all along. And so where are you along this continuum of transformation? Part of your journey are you on right now? And can you begin to see that at the essence, you are still you? You still have unique gifts and contributions to make to this world. Whether you are in that part of life that is happy and light, or the part that is kind of neutral, or the part that is really heavy right now. If you will mindfully go through these things that you experience, you won't add layers on top of who you are, which means you'll never lose sight of the essence of the true and authentic you. That's what he means when he teaches us about transformation. Knowing we are just part of a process, but it never changes the core of who we are. The light that exists within all of us. The compassion that fills our heart. And so as we pause here for these next few breaths, this next couple of moments, just check in with yourself and see where you are. When you look in the mirror, you physically know who you are. You see that face and it's recognizable. But what if you look deeper? Look at your spirit. Look at your perspective. Look at how you show up in the world. Do they look like you? And if not, don't be critical of yourself. Just be aware of that. And then mindfully walk the next steps of your path and see if you can begin to let go of some of those layers that are covering you up. Getting back to the essence of who you really are. So let's just pause here, sitting with ourselves, seeing who we are right now, and maybe along the way committing to get back to that person a little more each moment, each day. Begin to bring gentle awareness back to that next breath coming in. Just watch it come in and watch it go out. And just see what you noticed. Where did your mind go? What did you see? What did you think? This idea of transformation, Patanjali tells us as he writes this in this last book of the sutras, he says this is one of the things that will help you to understand what this practice has offered you. Along the way, I gave you tools, and some of those were transformative type tools, but they were helping you to develop practice. Practices that allow you to show up into this present moment, right here with yourself, embracing all the parts, all the stories, all the versions of you, so that as you sit and you become still, eventually you get back to the core of who you are. And then you'll leave and you'll stand up from meditation and you'll go back to the busy lives that we lead, and layers will get heaped on again. And then we'll sit and the layers will begin to fall off. There's this beautiful ebb and flow of this path of transformation. We're responding to the situations that we experience in our lives, but we're always returning back to the core of who we are. And so in the coming days, I encourage you, sit with that person, get to know them. No matter how many years you've been on this earth, no matter how many times you've walked this path, how many days, get to know yourself, who you are. And then you'll begin to notice that how you move through your life looks just a little bit different. Because you don't want to have to keep letting the layers fall away. You get more intentional about not letting them show up in the first place. The true essence of who we are is pretty sweet. I encourage each of us to get to know that a little more each day. And then hold on to that view. Know that person, embrace that person, because that person has something to offer to this world. Namaste.